She found the key by accident, tucked behind a loose tile under the window. A tiny, dull thing that didn't match any lock in the apartment. She didn't tell anyone about it. Instead, she wore it on a ribbon under her shirt, close to the place where breath gets tight. It wasn't for a door, she decided. It was for a moment. Every evening, the building exhaled the same tired noises. Pipes clicking, elevators sighing, televisions murmuring through thin walls. She moved through it like a habit. Shoes by the mat, kettle on, curtains half drawn. The light never went full on. Lamps were safer than bulbs. Lamps didn't shout. In the dark window, her reflection looked like a witness who refused to make a statement. At work, she sorted forms at a clinic reception desk, where everyone came to announce their small disasters. She was good at quiet help. Appointment slots shuffled to fit a night shift worker. A translator found for a patient with brittle English. A phone call placed for someone who couldn't lift a receiver without shaking. She recognized fear the way a firefighter recognizes smoke. By smell, by weight, by the way it tries to fill every space. She measured her days by small proofs of life. A hot tea finished while still hot. A song heard all the way through on the bus without pausing to check the aisle. A plant on the windowsill that kept asking for light and getting it. The ribbon at her collarbone, warm, with the ghost of a key. He still called sometimes, not to talk, to inventory. Where, when, why, with whom. Control wears many coats. In public, it calls itself care. She wrote down the time of each call in a small notebook. Nothing else. Numbers don't argue. They just take space and wait for their use. The turning came sideways. An older woman arrived with a child whose arm bent the wrong way. While the nurse prepared the splint, the woman kept apologizing to the air for the accident that wasn't her fault. The girl watched her mother, learning the choreography of blame. The receptionist stepped out from behind her desk with a cup of water and a list of numbers she had printed 100 times but never handed to this particular face. The girl took the water. The mother took the paper like a burning note. At lunch, she ate in the stairwell. 2 apples, a roll, a square of chocolate saved for last. The building hummed like a refrigerator full of other people's noise. She looked at the ribbon under her shirt and thought how keys are promises you carry before you know where they fit. That night, the apartment felt especially practiced at silence. The kettle clicked off. The lamp stayed low. She laid everything she absolutely needed on the table in a single, simple line. Documents, card, cash, charger, a new SIM, the notebook with the times of calls. She packed a small bag and stood up. Sometimes leaving isn't an event. It's a sentence that has waited long enough to end. It took 6 minutes, 3 to put on shoes and the jacket that felt like weather, not armor. 2 to place the apartment key on the shelf without a note. 1 to reach for the doorknob and understand that this was not a betrayal of a home, but the only way to build one. She didn't run. Running invites chase. She walked to the bus stop and let the city explain itself in lights and exhaust and the warm metal smell of a vehicle that never truly sleeps. Night buses are full of stories that don't want to wake the morning. She leaned her forehead against the window and watched reflections overlap like pages not yet stapled together. Morning began with pigeons practicing being pigeons on a low roof outside a hostel window. She switched the SIM. She messaged her sister a single line. "I'll come if you have tea." The reply came back like a hand at the surface of deep water. Always. Days turned into a list that was not a sentence, but a plan. First, the legal shape of a boundary, drawn by a polite document with teeth. Second, passwords changed, access closed, the quiet architecture of a new life erected click by click. Third, Names of helpers, in a phone, on a paper, in a memory that chose to remember only what could keep her breathing. Work adjusted around the truth she no longer hid. People surprised her in good ways. A colleague walked her to the bus for a week without making a ceremony out of it. The security guard at the clinic learned her new last name and used it as an ordinary fact, not a question. Ordinary facts are a kind of mercy. She bought a lamp that glowed like late honey and let it be bright. She bought plants that wanted what she wanted and put them where they could ask for it. She learned the shape of evenings that weren't auditions for danger. Laughing arrived like weather too. First a forecast, then a small rain, then a season. He tried to pull her back with everything except presents. Promises with missing dates, anger disguised as grammar, apologies that named only themselves. She kept every message, not as a shrine, but as a ledger. When the time came, the ledger spoke for her, in a room with a desk and a person who stamped things into reality. One afternoon, a girl returned, cast off, sleeve signed by classmates, eyes looking in a new direction. "It doesn't hurt all the time," the girl said to no one in particular. The receptionist nodded and slid a piece of paper across the desk with the steadiness of a bridge. The mother folded it once, twice, as if making something small enough to carry without burning. Seasons changed. Fear did not vanish. It learned where to sit. It took the far chair by the window and watched, like weather you could plan around. In the kitchen of her new place, she cooked things that smelled like decisions. She kept the key on the ribbon in a small dish by the door, where keys go. Its job finished, its promise kept. On the anniversary of the 6 minutes, she wrote a list that wasn't about leaving, but about building. A table that seats more than one. A picture in a frame that she chose. A plant that had outgrown its first pot and needed a larger circle to live in. People whose numbers she could call and ask nothing from, except their everyday voices. She didn't post a story. She didn't make a speech. She stood at the window of a place where the light was allowed to be itself and practiced the ancient art of an ordinary evening. Breath in, breath out. A home is not a miracle. It is repetition, repaired. If you need a key, start with the moment you can carry. Write your plan on a receipt, on the back of a bus ticket, on the inside of your palm if you have to. Take 6 minutes and make them your own. The lock will appear. It always does. For anyone who can name the door.